From WFFT, your 3D local forecast first in high definition.
Good Tuesday evening. I'm Kristen Kershane. We saw a few showers today. Temperatures were pretty comfortable, though. Currently 67 here in Fort Wayne. We are under mostly cloudy skies. Winds now out of the east at about 6 miles an hour. Again, we did have a couple of those isolated showers today. Now we're dry, but as we look a little farther west, plenty of moisture, rain, and thunderstorms are headed our way, and we will see an increasing risk for heavy rain and also the potential for strong to severe storms as we head through Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening. Breezy, warm, and humid for tomorrow. We're going to talk more about our severe weather potential coming up in a few minutes.
First at 10, this is WFFT local news in high definition.
Our top stories tonight.
He wanted him dead, I guess.
Nearly 50 shots ring out in a Fort Wayne community, killing one man, and it's all caught on video. Plus, putting a name and a face with the Ice Bucket Challenge.
You better fight with all your might, girlfriend.
I'm Isabella Moeller, a local Fort Wayne woman diagnosed with ALS at the age of 40. Hear her terrific story coming up.
And how's the market looking these days? Also, a new poll shows Americans are worried.
I think Americans and people should be informed.
I'm Roma Siddiqui. Coming up, find out why an alarming rate of Americans are just as scared as they were after the attacks of 9/11.
WFFT local news first at 10 starts right now. Good Tuesday evening to you. We will get to all of those top stories in just a moment, but we begin tonight's newscast with breaking news. A motorcyclist is dead and a roadway is closed down tonight and will be for hours as Allen County Sheriff's deputies investigate. Shortly after 8 this evening, a deputy spotted several motorcycles speeding near Bearfield and the airport here south of Fort Wayne. After following the bikes, the deputy attempted to make a traffic stop. That's when the motorcyclist took off, reaching speeds of at least 130 miles per hour. The chase ended when one of the motorcyclists crashed on Fogwell Parkway. That's just west of the General Motors plant. Now that roadway currently closed down and will remain closed for several hours as they investigate. Sheriff Freese was actually on the scene tonight. He tells me his deputies routinely patrol that area because residents have made several complaints about motorcycles racing in that area. The identity of the rider killed tonight has not yet been released. Now on to our top story. A young Fort Wayne man is dead after a shooting late last evening, and the dramatic scene is all captured on video. Several neighbors witnessed the scene firsthand and even captured it on their home security cameras. Take a look at this dramatic video. You're actually going to see where a van comes to a stop in this neighborhood. Then a dark SUV passes it, and then it stops. Then a man jumps out of the SUV and begins firing again and again and again at the van. In all, police believe that nearly 50 shots were fired at DeMarcus Holman while he sat in that van. WFFT's Tara Pettit spoke with neighbors who say they couldn't believe the amount of gunfire they heard right outside of their homes.
I heard a lot of gunshots. Sounded like somebody lit a brick of firecrackers and threw them out the window of the car.
Residents who witnessed the shooting firsthand described the scene Monday night, but didn't want to go on camera for fear of retaliation. Nearly 50 shell casings were marked by Fort Wayne police Monday night after a shooting on the 2100 block of EB Avenue around 10:22 p.m. Several neighbors' security systems captured the entire scene.
I looked up and looked out the window and didn't see the van moving, and I'm like, well, what's he doing just sitting there?
Fort Wayne police say 26-year-old John DeMarcus Holman was the target of Monday night's shooting.
I came to the door and looked, and he was in the passenger side, kind of hunched over and not doing too well.
You can see in the surveillance video the shooter, after firing dozens of rounds, runs and escapes in a dark-colored SUV. Fast forward to Tuesday morning, and thanks to tips, Fort Wayne police serve a high-risk search warrant at the 1400 block of Maumee Avenue. That's where 5 individuals were detained. As their investigation progressed, detectives end up arresting 24-year-old Charles Antoine Benson, charging him with Holman's murder and possession of a firearm. Also busted 25-year-old Marcus Lindsay for assisting Benson. The other 3 individuals who were detained have been released.
I don't really know what it was about, but for somebody to shoot at somebody 49 times, I don't know, something was up. I don't know, he wanted him dead, I guess.
After being transported to Lutheran Hospital in critical condition, Holman was pronounced dead at 11:16 p.m., just less than an hour after the shooting. Holman is the 11th homicide victim for Fort Wayne, Allen County this year. Tara Pettit, WFFT Local News, first at 10.
Let's head up to Kosciuszko County now. Sheriff's Department up there honoring 3 officers for their heroic and life-saving actions. Sheriff's deputies Don McCune and Chris Rager helped a woman who had been hit by a freight train. Both officers climbed under the train and applied a tourniquet to prevent further blood loss until paramedics arrived at the scene. The 3rd officer honored is Deputy Sheriff Neil Likens, who responded to a shooting. Deputy Likens applied a tourniquet to a man's leg at the scene, and hospital staff said that action likely saved that man's life. In other news from around our area, Indiana's Attorney General Greg Zeller has asked the Supreme Court to take up the issue of the Indiana's ban on same-sex marriage. Zeller also asking for the stay preventing same-sex marriage to stay in place while the appeals process takes place. The plaintiff couples fighting for marriage equality have also petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court to take up the issue. Last week, you might recall, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals up in Chicago agreed with a federal district court that the ban here in Indiana is unconstitutional. Bringing it back home here, the city of Fort Wayne's newly created Legacy Funds Council, the group of 9 people who will make decisions as to how the city spends its millions of dollars in legacy funds, is about already to have their hands full. WFT's Andrew Logsden was at tonight's city council meeting where the council members introduced a $2.2 million request for snow funds. Andrew joining us live in the control room. More on this. We remember last year they had overtime, extra salt, then we had messed up roads, a lot of money spent thanks to Mother Nature. What are they talking about for this winter?
Well, Dan, with all that salt needed to unfreeze area roads this past winter, the city is at a shortfall as to how to pay for it. At tonight's city council meeting, they introduced a request for legacy funds by the city. That's for $2,200,000. $2 million of that would cover the cost from this past winter, like you just said, the extra road salt and the many hours of overtime those plow drivers worked to keep traffic going across the city. It includes that extra $200,000 to cover anticipated costs for this upcoming November and December. Council members haven't discussed or voted on this resolution. That will come at the next meeting. I spoke with District 3 Council member Tom Didier before the meeting. He says it should cause for a bit of debate for council members, but in the end, it has to get paid for somehow.
In the nuts and bolts in this, we have to make sure that the dollars are there for the community as a whole to make sure that they're protected from, making sure their snow is removed from their streets and, and they have clear passages for be able to get to work.
So now here's where that new Legacy Fund Committee comes into play. If City Council members vote and approve it next meeting, it would go to the committee for approval. At tonight's meeting, the City Council selected its appointed member. Once the 8-person committee can get together then, it would then have to vote on its 9th and final member before it could approve fund requests like this one. Live in the control room, I'm Andrew Logsden, WFFT Local News, first at 10.
All right, so some official business before they can get to approving stuff. All right, thank you, Andrew. We'll stay on top of that one. So far, over 5,000 people have made it out to this year's 50th anniversary of the Parade of Homes here in Fort Wayne. The event taking place over at the Forest of Foxwood with a over 17-acre lake northeast side of town. For a small fee, attendees can tour 7 made custom homes, also 2 villas. Director of Development for the Northeastern Group, Rick Zaire, says that the homes on the parade are selling quickly.
Well, we have 2 pre-solds, 1 sold during construction, and we understand a 4th house is being sold now. So it's great. Out of 7 single family, 4 of those are sold.
Now, the Parade of Homes started this past weekend, and it will run through this Sunday, September 14th. And our Brooke Welch, she was over at the Parade of Homes today and talked with area experts about the local real estate market here in Fort Wayne and Northeast Indiana. Brooke now has more on what things are selling for as far as homes on the market. Are they moving quickly or slowly? She also has more on what we can expect when it comes to interest rates. Will they stay low or will they be going up?
Events like the Parade of Homes brings in a lot of people to look at houses. But are people actually selling and buying new houses since the economy took a hit in 2008? The answer is yes.
You know, we've just come out of this significant recession, and we're seeing so much enthusiasm now.
The Northeastern Group has been around for 54 years and put on 28 of the 50 Parade of Homes. Rick Zayer says the Fort Wayne market is booming.
The market is really rebounding, so builders are coming to us asking for lots, which is a really good sign as a developer. So we know we have to open new areas and really look at all areas of the city.
Clint Morgan with Ruoff Home Mortgage says realtors and lenders have been busy.
Things have been very active as of late. We've done a lot of local transactions in Fort Wayne and the surrounding area. So it's been a busy summer. We're seeing that the inventory on the houses available for our buyers are down a bit, and that's creating a little bit more demand.
A seller's market for those wanting to list their home, and Morgan thinks even if interest rates go up, they'll still be historically low.
Some 30-year fixed interest rates are even in the 3s at this point. So, but for the most part, they are down and they've been stable. There are a lot of forecasts that are saying that they're going to go up in coming months, but we've seen a stability in them and actually an improvement in them in the latter part of the summer.
As for the other trends in home buying, builders say people appreciate outdoor entertainment centers and kitchens featuring an open floor plan. Home designer Rianne Donaghy tells us lockers in the mudrooms are popular and shares what else you might want to add to your home.
Trim is really popular right now, like with the wainscoting, and it's the mission styles a lot. It's really popular right now. The ceiling treatment, we have the coffered ceilings, or in this particular home, we have the round ceiling that is trimmed out very nicely.
With the economy up, Sarah Robinson says their home sold quickly.
It did. They said a lot of it was decorating, that it was decorated nicely. We hit a good time. So yeah, it worked out well.
There are some predictions that interest rates could go up in 2015, and the experts said right now it's a seller's market. Brooke Welch, WFFT Local News, first at 10.
Speaking of real estate, listen to this one. The iconic Kramer Chapel on the campus of Fort Wayne's Concordia Theological Seminary is bringing this city some international attention. The chapel building and its architecture is being featured in an architectural photography project by famous German photographer Christoph Morlinghaus. The artist is taking pictures of modernist-style churches around our country. 4 of the ones featured out of his top 15 are in Indiana, including the Kramer Chapel here in Fort Wayne. The chapel was built as the centerpiece of the college campus back in 1958. Dean of the chapel, Paul Grimm, says the recognition caught the school by surprise.
We weren't aware that he had done that. In fact, it was news to us when we saw it on the internet. And so we're quite interested in learning more. And actually, we're going to try to contact him and get him back here, because he took pictures when the place was kind of taken apart. And there were hymnals laying all over the place. And we want him to come back when it's looking in its pristine condition.
Now, WFFT reached out to that photographer, Morlinghaus, earlier today. He was unavailable for comment. He's traveling currently. We're going to keep following this story as he releases this Form Faith project. And when it launches, we'll bring you more details on it. Very cool. A new app from the American Red Cross for your smartphone. It's been launched. It now allows folks to find local blood drives in and around our area. The app allows donors to schedule for blood donations, track donations. It also allows users to sync their calendars on their smartphones to when the blood drives are in their area and give them alert. Vince Robinson says this is a new way to meet the constant need for the gift of life.
As far as really spreading the word, because they can use the app to take a selfie, for example, that kind of promotes the idea to family and friends who maybe have not thought about donating before. It gives them the incentive to donate.
That's right. Everybody's doing it. You heard it. It encourages taking selfies. Robinson says the app encourages people to promote donating blood and being able to post that selfie from their app right away as they're sitting actually in the room giving blood. They hope the new app will increase their donations. Very cool. Well, by now, most of all of you have probably seen or maybe actually done this, the Ice Bucket Challenge benefiting ALS. But do you really know what this deadly disease is and how it affects the body? Earlier today, WFFT's Isabella Moeller met with a woman suffering from the disease right here in Fort Wayne. At just 40 years old, Angel Waller was diagnosed with ALS back in March and has been battling the deadly disease ever since. Here's Isabella now with more on Angel's fight.
Do you cry a lot when nobody's looking? I'm sorry, baby.
Angel Waller was diagnosed with ALS just a few months ago and has already lost the ability to walk, eat, and talk with her loved ones. Melanie Manny has been friends with Angel for the past 20 years and is devastated her best friend has come down with the disease at the age of 40.
She couldn't talk all of a sudden. She couldn't speak at all, and she didn't tell anybody. It came back. Her voice came back. She didn't tell anybody.
This past March, Angel went to Indianapolis for testing.
She'd lost a whole lot of weight, and so that's when Dr. Chang came in and said, okay, we don't need to go to Indy anymore. We don't need to do this. Let's all work together and get this figured out. And that's when they said that she had bulbar palsy.
Bulbar palsy is another form of ALS, and this disease has acted fast on Angel's body.
She could feed herself 2 weeks ago, now she can't. Her dad has to put it, because this hand doesn't hardly work at all now, and this hand, she can still take drinks by herself.
Angel's mind is working, and she is able to spell out sentences on this alphabet sign to her dad, who is her caretaker, as well as friends like Melanie.
You're trapped in my own body. Screaming. You're screaming inside.
Melanie says she is glad she lives in Fort Wayne and is able to be close to her friend.
If I was in Arizona and this happened, I'd move right back here and take care of her. I love her. I love her more than anything in the whole world.
Melanie and her friend Matt Springer are looking to raise money to support Angel's bucket list. She wants to go to a Motley Crue concert, meet Dale Earnhardt, and see the Chicago Bears play at Soldier Field. If you would like to donate, there's a link on our website, fortwaynehomepage.net. Isabella Moeller, WFFT Local News, first at 10.
Coming up after the break, the president met with congressional leaders today to talk about a strategy to deal with ISIS, just 24 hours before he addresses the nation. Plus, a new poll shows that Americans are just as worried about ISIS as they were 13 years ago about Al-Qaeda. And the fourth American infected with the Ebola virus returns home. Also a bit later, beam me up, Scotty, Apple introduces its new smartwatch to the world, along with some new iPhones. Plus, the lights of Broadway go dim for Joan. Those stories and more when we return. Kristen?
76 degrees for a high today. Will be warm again tomorrow, but the potential for heavy rain and also severe storms. More details on Wednesday's forecast is after the break.
From WFFT, the area's only 10 o'clock local newscast with Dan Ball. Weather with Kristen Kershay. Sports with Christina Aguayo. You're watching WFFT Local News, first at 10 in high definition.
Welcome back. Let's take a look around the world now. President Obama rallying support among congressional leaders to go after ISIS in Syria. This comes just one day before he addresses the nation on the matter. President Obama has authorized airstrikes on targets in Iraq, but now faces pressure to strike ISIS extremists in Syria. Two senior legislators from each party say a congressional vote on military action, though, is unlikely. The White House is also trying to determine whether going after ISIS in Syria will require congressional approval. A recent nationwide poll shows that more Americans feel unsafe than ever before between now and right after the attacks of 9/11. And with the anniversary of September 11th fast approaching later this week and the recent beheadings by the new terror group ISIS in the Middle East, WFFT's Roma Siddiqui spoke to locals today to find out about how safe they feel.
47% of Americans think America is less safe now than it was before the 9/11 attacks. Clinton Bunch thinks this is a time we should be very cautious.
I'm cautious, about traveling. I would never travel outside of the States. Really? No, I don't think I would do that. No, I'm going to stay right here in the United States.
Justin Sheehan thinks being aware is important.
I think Americans and people should be informed.
He thinks being informed is a better response than being afraid.
I'm not afraid. Frankly, bad things can happen to anyone at any time.
An alert public is our best defense.
Bernie Beyer, Allen County Director of Homeland Security, says a big part of being prepared against such attacks is creating a resilient community.
This month of September is a good time to have that dialogue. Talk about those things that we never talk about. Talk about terrorism. talk about the weather, talk about preparedness in general, and it goes a long way.
Byers says the main concern right now is the radicalization attempts by ISIS of people in the U.S.
The grisly beheadings are designed to influence that audience well beyond the effective target, which is the true definition of terrorism. It's designed, the whole campaign is designed to influence others.
Byer added that ISIS is now using social media websites and online magazines to reach a Western audience, hoping to convert Americans to Islam and to join in the fight. Just this week, the FBI announced they stopped a Colorado woman from heading to the Middle East where she believed she would be joining the terror group.
Slick periodicals that these groups put out that encourage you to take action in your home country.
If you see something, say something. Bernie Byers says the simple slogan goes a long way at the local level of ensuring safety and awareness. Roma Siddiqui, WFFT Local News, First at 10.
And Indiana's senior Senator Dan Coates spoke today on the Senate floor urging the president to present a clear plan to defeat ISIS when he addresses the nation tomorrow evening. The senator said President Obama's admission in a recent press conference that he has no ISIS policy was deeply concerning. I hope that tomorrow he will articulate a realistic and workable plan to degrade and defeat this growing danger to our nation. And speaking of the address, you can see the president's speech right here on WFFT Local tomorrow at 9 o'clock sharp. In other news, the Ebola outbreak has reached dire proportions, this according to the World Health Organization. The group sent out that warning the same day today that the fourth American patient with Ebola arrived back in the U.S. Mary Maloney takes a look at this story.
The fourth American infected with Ebola landed in Atlanta this morning. Doctors at Emory University Hospital will treat the patient in a special isolation unit to ensure the deadly virus does not spread. The healthcare worker, whose name has not been released, apparently got the illness in Sierra Leone. Unlike the other two Americans who were treated there, this patient will not get an experimental serum for now.
If we have therapeutic options, we will evaluate those, but again, we will fall back on our standard protocols.
Those protocols include treating the symptoms and boosting the patient's own defense system.
Importantly, to be able to improve upon their nutritional status so that the reparative mechanisms of the body are ongoing and that immune system recovers to clear the virus.
This comes as the U.S. government announced a $10 million contribution to help combat the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. The money will help train and equip some 100 additional health workers in the area. This is in addition to $100 million already pledged. The World Health Organization describes the growing Ebola outbreak as a dire emergency. The WHO says several thousand more cases of Ebola are expected in the next 3 weeks. The deadliest Ebola outbreak in history has already killed more than 2,200 people. In Atlanta, I'm Mary Maloney reporting.
And now, your 3D local forecast with Chief Meteorologist Kristen Kershane in high definition.
All right, let's get right to it because severe weather may be on the way for tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, the threat is kind of conditional depending on what happens early in the day, but the potential is definitely there. So something that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But first of all, looking at our current conditions outside, temperatures still feel pretty good tonight. 67 here in Fort Wayne, still 70 in Elkhart, same thing in Hartford City. Coming in at 68 in Defiance, 67 in Van Wert with plenty of cloud cover in place. We're not going to see these temperatures falling too much, and we can see a lot of that cloud cover as we look outside with the windows, doors, and more. We could briefly see the moon through the clouds. We did have a few showers as we move through this afternoon and into this evening, but those have dissipated for now. Again, plenty of cloud cover in place. As we look a little farther to our west into Illinois, already plenty of rain starting to move in, and we did have some strong and even severe storms through parts of Nebraska into Missouri and into Iowa today. This system going to bring in plenty of moisture for us, and also the instability is there to produce some of those strong to severe storms. But like I said earlier, what happens early in the day is really going to be, or what happens later in the day is going to be dependent on what happens earlier in the day. So the potential for severe weather is there, something you need to be aware of, and encouraging people to really keep an eye on what's happening in the weather as we head through tomorrow. So we can see what that looks like with Future Track. We've got this first wave of rain that looks like it's going to come in early in the day on Wednesday. So starting after about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, we'll be on the lookout for rain showers and also some thunderstorms to come in. but it's not until we get into a little bit later Wednesday afternoon and into Wednesday evening that we see this cold front coming through. And I think this is going to be our best time frame to see some of those strong to severe storms. So again, Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday evening, be keeping an eye on what's happening in the weather, and we'll be watching things closely here. Beyond that cold front, we will start to see cooler air moving in as we get into Thursday, the potential for a few showers on Thursday, but most of the activity is going to come tomorrow. So here's a look at our severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center for Wednesday. Most of the area does have that potential to see strong storms, the highest potential for severe storms just west and southwest of Fort Wayne. Again, this is going to be Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday evening, carrying over even into Wednesday night. As far as our threats go, for Wednesday, there is an isolated chance for a tornado. Could also see a few isolated hail events, but the bigger threats are really going to be the potential for some flooding, as we could see some very heavy rain as these storms come through. And our highest threat looks like it's going to come in the form of wind. Could see some very strong, even damaging winds with some of these storms. So just be thinking about what you'll do if we get some of those watches and warnings issued. Know where you're going to go and the safety precautions that you need to take. So 62 for an overnight low tonight, with a few of those isolated showers moving in, especially as we head into the morning. Still warm as we head into tomorrow. It will be humid and also breezy. We're watching for those strong to severe storms. Much cooler as we head into Thursday, Friday. Could still see a couple of showers. 60s as we head from Thursday, Friday into the weekend and next week. FortWayneHomepage.net, where you can always track those rain showers and thunderstorms with our interactive radar. Dan?
All right, yeah, and folks, make sure you tune in to us tomorrow. We'll be tracking those storms for you all day. Coming up a bit later here in our newscast, you'll want to stick around. You're going to get a chance to check out Apple's new iPhone 6 that's coming out real soon. Plus, you're going to get a look, at the all-new smartwatch. Looks like something from the Jetsons or Star Trek. But first, Christina.
Coming up, Ray Rice's wife speaks out about the elevator video. I'll tell you what she says next in sports.
And now from WFFT, this is your local sports with Christina Aguayo in high definition.
All righty, welcome back. And the Ray Rice domestic violence video and saga continues.
Absolutely. Still dominating the headlines. Everybody coming out to speak today, including his wife. All right, well, the release of the elevator video prompted anyone and everyone with access to a computer to voice their opinions about the incident that happened 7 months ago. Well, Ray Rice's wife, Janae, is upset about it, and she let the world know this morning through an Instagram post. I woke up this morning, she said, feeling like I had a horrible nightmare, feeling like I'm mourning the death of my closest friend, but having to accept the fact that it's reality and it's a nightmare in itself. Janae goes on to talk about her pain and her commitment to her husband, all the while lashing out at media outlets for using her personal life as a ratings boost. To see her full statement, log on to FortWayneHomepage.net. Sticking with the NFL, the Colts are already feeling the sting of losing their star linebacker, Robert Mathis, a.k.a. the heart and soul of the defense. Just to give you an idea of how much Mathis means to the team, this guy is the franchise leader in sacks with 111 and is a 6-time Pro Bowl selection. Pagano had this to say earlier today. Obviously, injuries are a part of the game. We hate to lose anybody, but this is a really devastating blow for Robert and his family and our team. It's a tough, tough pill to swallow right now. The team is just absorbing the shock and enormity of it all. Switching gears, the head honcho over at Ball State, Pete Lembo, held his weekly press conference earlier today. Lembo talking about the Cardinals' 4-point loss to Iowa over the weekend and says even though they didn't win the game, he was impressed at the speed he saw in his defense.
There were a couple times where I saw some things happen on the field and thought to myself, gosh, we look fast. Now, I'm not saying we're the biggest group of linebackers, but we do have good speed, and I think our instincts are getting better.
Meanwhile, Ball State announced earlier that their AD, Bill Scholl, will be leaving the school to accept the vice president and AD positions at Marquette University. This was a very difficult decision to make, said Scholl, because of the momentum Ball State athletics has right now. My wife Julie and I thoroughly enjoyed our time here. Coach Lembo says he's happy with the time he's had with Scholl and understands his reasons for leaving.
And I know that some of the things he was able to do will make a lasting impact for years to come. And that's all you can ask. You can't ask people to hold back their personal goals and their careers. You know, if the New York Times calls you tomorrow, Ben, I fully expect you to pack up your belongings and throw them in your Toyota and start heading east. You know what I'm saying?
Coach Lembo, a man of great character. All right, get ready, guys. Notre Dame is playing in another great weekend of football as the Irish take on the Boilermakers Saturday at Lucas Oil. Coach Darrell Hazel for Purdue already sending a message to his team.
Have to be able to play our positions, and the big key word for Sunday and today and the rest is do your job. And your job is this: there is no gray area. And as long as you do your job, you'll be okay.
Now, last weekend in South Bend, WFFT spotted a few Fort Wayne rising stars sitting in the stands for the Irish. Lures, Austin Mack, Wayne's, Austin Robertson, and Homestead's Ben Skowronek. It was so cool to see our guys out there. Wonder who we'll bump into down in Indy. All right, you're going to want to stick around because coming up, we'll hit some of our local teams like the Tin Caps and the Mad Ants. Back to you, Dan.
Okay, see you in a few minutes. Thank you for that, Christina. Well, it's like something from Star Trek or the Jetsons when we were younger, but it's finally going to be available at an Apple store near you today. Apple unveiling their new iWatch. Yes, a smart watch. Beam me up, Scotty. More on the new state-of-the-art technology straight ahead. Welcome back. Topping business news, Apple's fall event today delivered what many industry watchers expected, including new iPhones and a smart watch. But the tech giant still had a few more surprises to unveil today. Karen Kafa has details.
We have one more thing.
At Apple's fall event, the biggest product announcement came last. Their long-awaited, much speculated about smartwatch. The Apple Watch has interchangeable bands, touch features, and a flexible Retina display. The face is customizable, different colors, images, and information, and Apple highlighted its fitness tracking capabilities. The Apple Watch wasn't the only device rolled out on Tuesday. Keeping with an industry trend of bigger phones, Apple introduced the larger iPhone 6 and the even larger iPhone 6 Plus. The iPhone 6 screen measures 4.7 inches, the 6 Plus 5.5, and both are thinner than their predecessors. They have curved edges, faster processors, and what Apple calls Retina HD displays. More than 1 million pixels in the iPhone 6 and 2 million in the 6 Plus, double the amount on the current 5S.
Your total is $23.78.
Apple also announced Apple Pay, its version of a mobile payment system. A mobile wallet, a wearable, and bigger smartphones, all things Apple's competitors are doing, but that Apple waited to unveil in the hopes consumers will think they do it better.
They join eventually, but if you want to see a first of or first of its kind, it's probably going to be on an Android platform or even Windows.
The iPhone 6 starts at $199, the 6 Plus at $299. Pre-orders begin this Friday, September 12th, and begin shipping on the 19th. The Apple Watch goes on sale early next year and begins at $349. I'm Karen Kafa reporting.
Over to some entertainment news now. Broadway dimmed the lights tonight in honor of comedian Joan Rivers. Her funeral was on Sunday in New York City. On August 28th, Rivers experienced complications and stopped breathing during a procedure on her vocal cords. Rivers died at Mount Sinai Hospital on September 3rd. The executive director said Joan Rivers loved Broadway and we loved her. The lights were dimmed in her memory tonight at 6:45 for 1 minute. Well, many of us use caffeine to give us a little extra boost throughout our workday, but which way you get your caffeine and how much you intake each day, it can be bad for your health. Straight ahead, some tips on just how much is enough in tonight's Health Minute. But first, Kristen.
Pretty quiet outside tonight as we look out there with our windows, doors, and more, Kim, but things are changing as we head into tomorrow. Potential for very heavy rain and even some severe storms. Details are after the break.
Welcome back in Health News tonight. Everybody needs a little boost now and again. A lot of people turn to caffeine to give them that extra jolt. But like everything else, too much of a good thing is not always good for your body. Here's Carla Zeus with tonight's Health Minute.
Caffeine is everywhere.
In coffee, iced tea, chocolate, sodas, even in some medications, it's a stimulant that can make you feel more alert and give you that boost of energy.
It increases blood flow to the muscles, opens up your lungs. It gives increased performance.
But when you consume too much of it, caffeine can cause major health problems. On average, most people can handle about 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. That's about what's in 3 to 4 6-ounce cups of coffee. What's concerning these days is more and more products contain larger amounts of caffeine. Energy drinks, supplements, even powdered caffeine contains way more of the substance than any cup of coffee. For example, the FDA warns 1 teaspoon of powdered caffeine is equivalent to 25 cups of coffee.
When they take what they think is a dose, it's 10, 15, 20 times what they're expecting.
Consuming more than 1,000 milligrams of caffeine could lead to some serious side effects like an irregular heartbeat, nausea, tremors, insomnia, and in some rare situations, death. So beware of what you're drinking. Best way to avoid caffeine overdose is to check the ingredients just to see how much caffeine you're taking in. For today's Health Minute, I'm Carl Azus.
And now, your 3D local forecast with Chief Meteorologist Kristen Kershane in high definition.
Doesn't feel too bad out there tonight. 67 our current temperature in Fort Wayne. We are under cloudy skies. Dew point at 62. It does feel a little bit humid out there, and plenty of moisture is headed our way. We had a couple of showers as we move through this afternoon, but as of tonight, things are dry. Again, plenty of cloud cover in place, but not too far to our west. We're already starting to see showers moving in, so Illinois starting to get in on some of the rain. Did have some strong to severe storms across parts of Nebraska into Iowa and Missouri today, and all of this moisture is headed our way. So again, it is going to be humid as we head into tomorrow, but with all that moisture in place, we'll see the potential for some very heavy rainfall as storms move through. What happens later in the day is really going to be dependent on what happens earlier in the day. So as we play this out with Future Track here, you can see, looks like our first wave of rain and some storms comes through kind of early in the day. So after about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be watching for rain showers and also a couple of thunderstorms. But if we don't see much sunshine as we head into the afternoon, we won't be able to destabilize the atmosphere like we need to get the energy for the storms later in the day. So we're going to watch things closely, how they're developing as we head into the afternoon hours, and we'll be providing updates for you online as we head through the afternoon and into the evening. The cold front comes through as we get into Wednesday evening. That's going to be our best time frame to see those strong to severe storms. And also, again, we do have that potential for some very heavy rain tomorrow. Could cause some problems with flooding. Much cooler air filters in behind our cold front. So Thursday, a noticeable difference in temperatures. Highs only down into the 60s. Could still see a couple of showers lingering around into Thursday. Storm Prediction Center's severe weather outlook for Wednesday, the highest risk for severe weather across the southwest part of the viewing area, but all of our counties could see strong to severe storms. Can't rule out the potential for an isolated tornado or some large hail, but the biggest threats are going to be localized flooding from heavy rain and the potential for very strong to even damaging winds. So plenty of things to keep in mind as we head through tomorrow. 62 overnight, almost 80 for a high tomorrow. It will be breezy and humid and much cooler. 60s Thursday, Friday into the weekend, and next week with just a few showers Thursday and again on Friday night. Christina?
Coming up, the Mad Ants have released their regular season schedule. Stick around and I'll tell you all about it next in sports.
And now, from WFFT, this is your local sports with Christina Aguayo in high definition.
The Tin Caps were able to finish the season off on a win streak. Then they beat the #1 team in the first half, the Whitecaps, to advance to the second round of the playoffs. Even after all that, they got a little more good news today. Nick Schultz, the Cappies outfielder, has been named the Midwest League Player of the Month for August. A little late, but hey, we'll take it. Minor League Baseball made the announcement earlier saying Schultz led the 16-team circuit in slugging percentage and on-base percentage. All right, if you've been waiting all summer to see when you can catch the Mad Ants in action again, well, today is your lucky day. The team has released their regular season schedule. Last year, the Ants finished with the best record in the league, 36-14, won themselves an Eastern Division title, and swept the playoffs to be crowned champs. The Good Guys will tip off their 8th season on Saturday, November 15th at 7:30 when they welcome Sioux Falls to the Coliseum. For their full schedule, log on to fortwaynehomepage.net. Team USA still dominating in the FIBA World Cup as Derrick Rose and company took on Slovenia in the quarterfinals of the single elimination bracket and beat them. Even though it took the Americans a little time to warm up, they still came out with the win. Final on the game 119-76. Team USA advances to take on Lithuania in the semifinals on Thursday. Bringing it back a little closer to home, we hit the courts for some volleyball action. The Carroll Chargers and the Northrop Bruins going at it in this one. Chargers getting the best of the Bruins in the first set, 25-14. Then they go ahead and sweep them on the night. A big thanks to Isabella Muller for shooting these highlights tonight. And how about a quick soccer score for you? The Chargers took down East Noble tonight 5-0. Back to you, Dan.
Okay, thanks for all that. Great local stuff. Straight ahead after the break, we will have details on a story that we'll be working on for tomorrow evening's newscast. Stay with us. You're watching WFT Local, first at 10. Before we leave you tonight, want to know what's on for the radar for tomorrow evening? President Barack Obama will be addressing the nation tomorrow night at 9 p.m. He's expected to discuss his policy on how to handle ISIS and the terror group in the Middle East. You can watch the presidential address right here on WFT Local at 9 o'clock. Hell's Kitchen will follow after that, and then we'll have an abbreviated newscast at about 10:15, 10:20. We hope you tune in for our news with all the day's top local stories. And the big story tomorrow will be the weather.
Yeah, we're going to be tracking rain and storms as we head through tomorrow. Could see some very heavy rain and the potential for strong to severe storms as well. So keep a close eye on the weather for tomorrow. Much cooler Thursday and beyond.
FortWayneHomepage.net for your news, weather, and sports. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow right after the president's address.